excitement of bonfire night, and despite the warnings, Casualty is on standby. And then at 8:30...
Naturally.
East Midlands Electricity has a vast range of home entertainment products at guaranteed unbeatable prices. With interest-free credit on selected top brands, or buy now, pay June. We've loads of free gifts and special offers, and free delivery until Christmas Eve. And East Midlands Electricity has an extensive range of Sega, Nintendo, consoles and games. So if you want home entertainment, we're unbeatable.
Well, what do you think, Jeeves?
Sir?
Our new cooler, whatnot?
May I inquire what you're proposing to do with this?
It's for the jolly old Croft original.
If I might caution you, sir.
A drop of the chilled Croft is absolute nectar. Everyone at Stiffy Bings do lapped it up. The trouble with you, Jeeves, is that you're too stuck in your words.
But not quite in the Ice Age, it would suggest.
Chilled Craft Original. One instinctively knows when something is right.
Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes, golden flakes encrusted with honey, nuts, and brown sugar. Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. The trouble is, they taste too good.
Lying is a habit with a high price to pay.
70,000.
Well, you've come to the right man.
You're a con man, Leon.
Running from reality.
Not a con man.
Where did it all go, I wonder?
He's stolen from his friends, he's stolen from his wife.
I've had a call from the police.
Running out of time.
I loathe my son and I despise him.
It's finally All or Nothing at All. Friday at 9 on Central.
Channel 4's The Talking Show in a minute. And now, there's hard talking here on Central in the bill.
New drama this Christmas on BBC Two. Kaya MacLachlan stars in Franz Kafka's The Trial.
What has happened to me, ladies and gentlemen, is only an isolated incident and of little importance. But it is an indication of the kind of intimidation many people are being subjected to.
I am a lawyer. I move in legal circles. People talk about different cases, and one remembers the more striking one. Keep the case from progressing, you see. But of course there's no rest. There's no sleep.
The Trial, Sunday at 9:30 on BBC Two.
You're watching a festive BBC Two.
festive welcome to the gift-wrapped food and drink Christmas quiz. Not merely a feast of fun, oh dear me no, but also an invaluable source of practical last-minute Christmas ideas. On hand are two teams of unparalleled wit and wisdom, or so their agents assure me. On my right, the queen of the coiffers, Julie Goulden, leading two veterans back for a second year, will they never learn, chef patron Brian Turner, and talented actor-writer Patrick Barlow. Taking on the Goulden horde, Food and Drink's own cuddly cook Michael Barry leads a man who is to wine what the Niles Delta is to water, Oz Clarke, and a gifted actress recently nominated for the Top Female Comedy Star Award. Welcome, Helen Atkinson-Wood. The right teams have a good look at what lies before you while I just outline what's on the Christmas menu today. For the harassed cook who only has a scant 2 minutes to prepare for unexpected guests, our chefs will knock up a lightning chicken liver salad together with melon balls filled with cream cheese and smoked salmon, need I say more. And on the wine front, we feature 4 whites, all costing remarkably under a fiver, which should go a treat with Christmas dinner. So now, chocks away and let's get to it. For this first round, the Taste of Britain, we've scoured the length and breadth of the land to come up with some unusual homegrown delicacies, both old and new. They're available on mail order, incidentally, so maybe you'd like to make a note as we go along. And all the programme information is, in any case, on CFAX, page 686. So teams, 1 point for each item you get right, and bonuses for anything useful you might care to add. Helen, can you identify that for a start?
This looks like something that I used to keep in the goldfish bowl. It's probably goldfish seaweed, but...
Is there anything else you'd like to divulge about your private life while we're at it?
I know, and I've obviously covered quite a lot already. This is samphire.
That's what it is. Yes. Applause, applause, please.
But interestingly enough, my goldfish actually tastes better than this.
It is prepared. I mean, do you know how it's prepared?
It's probably thrashed soundly and sent early to bed. I really don't give
What it is pickled. So you got a point for samphire. It comes from Sarah Pinfold of Suffolk, quite right, and elsewhere in East Anglia. Goes wild on sea marshes, sand dunes and shingle, and that's off to a good start. Patrick, can you match it? What have you got there?
I've no idea, but it doesn't look well. I'm just going to take a little incision here. Oh, my God.
What does it reveal?
It reveals...
Very little.
Oh, yes. It is incredibly smelly.
I think we've established that, Patrick. Yeah, I'd have a taste.
We've
I'd have a
established the
taste. It
smell.
might help.
Well, it's a smoked cheese.
It is a smoked cheese. I'll give you a point for that. It's actually known as a cheese cobble. It comes from the Loon Valley. That's in Kendal. It's made from unpasteurized cow's milk, originally smoked in farmhouse kitchen ranges, here smoked over whiskey barrel chips, which makes a change from salt and vinegar, I dare say. Michael, what have you got there?
It's dark meat. It could be mutton, but I think it may be venison.
That's what it is, yes. 1 point. Well done. Do you want to tell us any more about it, where it might have come from? Might have come from lots of places.
In Scotland?
It came from Scotland. It came from Fletchers of Achtermuchty, yes. 2 points. Cured for 3 days in salt, sugar, orange and spices, like juniper berries, then pressed. It sounds awfully good. 2 points to Michael. Brian, what do you make of that?
Well, this is rather a friendly-looking object. Pally or chummy, I would have said.
This is great news for the country victualler in Nottinghamshire, who very kindly provided it.
I'm sure it's from the Nottingham area.
Close.
I think it's sheepy or muttony.
It's neither sheepy nor muttony, because it's wild boar pate, and it does come from the country victualler in Nottinghamshire. Cross between pork and venison, it says here, so I fear I can't give you any points there, and Oz, I hope I can give you some.
God. Give me that cheese of yours, Patrick. It's an apple brandy. It's a Calvados type apple brandy. I would say it's from either Somerset or Dorset.
Yeah, you're right on Somerset. You're right on brandy. No, you don't want to really show off and go for the producer, do you? Yes, it's Somerset.
Julian Temple is.
Julian Temple, exactly. 2 points was there. And Gilly, that's quite a score to match.
Fresh pressed apple juice, undoubtedly. And I know you want me to tell you
A
what
woman of
variety
your
it
calibre
is.
is going to have to go for the variety, I'm afraid, yeah.
I would have said that it was a Worcester.
I should stick with that. It's
Yes.
while you're ahead if I were you. And at the end of that tour of Britain, let's see who's leading the pack. Gilly's team have 3 points, but Michael's team have stolen the early lead with 6 points. And now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water teams, a challenge of quite a different ilk for Helen and Patrick. Setting the pace, a Mayfair-based mega florist who travels the world adorning the salons of the rich and famous. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he's worked for Gilly Goulden. For us, he's going to create a centrepiece to make the guests gasp with envy till Easter. Welcome, please, Kenneth Turner. Well, now, look at that. In very broad terms, what are you going to do with this rather unpromising-looking object?
Well, by using a terracotta pot with an oasis, dried oasis ball in the centre, I've actually made a hole and put the birch pole in, packed it with moss, drilled the birch pole for the candle.
A dramatic centrepiece indeed. Now, Patrick and Helen, I'd counsel close scrutiny if I were you, because in a horribly short time it'll be your turn, and you, Kenneth, now have 90 seconds to work the transformation scene, starting now.
Right. Here we have rosemary, bunches of rosemary, which I've tied up with wire. You smell it? Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Then we have the blue pine, just work it around like that.
Of course, it's very inexpensive. Which is not
Well, yes,
famous,
people
isn't it?
actually go out into their gardens and
Or even somebody else's garden.
Some other garden or a park or something like that. That's his lich and larch, Scotland, and holly from the garden. And again, larch, and nuts.
Aha.
All right, all wired up. And we have...
practically anything goes.
Well, we've got the apples for the colour. See that colour? And just work your way around like that. It's not just a case of shoving it in. It's like grouping and all that. These are lovely dried apples. And you have your seleniums or peppers to give more colour. Candle.
Oh, we've had a candle.
No, never mind.
Say no more.
Lighting
You
up.
didn't get the peppers on, did you?
Oh, yeah, the peppers are divine.
Because they're such a lovely crimson colour. Very good. Okay, brilliant.
There you are. And light up your room for Christmas. Oh, golly.
Well, for next Christmas, anyway.
This Christmas.
So, Helen Patrick, there you are, simplicity yourself, you see. You have 90 seconds, both of you. Very good luck, starting now.
The rosemary.
And Helen's off to that Blue Peter start, which she hasn't quite remembered fully by the look of it.
Yes. Where is petrol when you need it?
Indeed.
A very, very inexpensive blue pine.
Yeah, Patrick's taking a rather cavalier approach to this. It doesn't look quite like Kenneth did,
No,
does
it looks exactly... Look at it.
It's a sort of freehand version.
More inexpensive blue pine.
That's sort of 1 minute to go, folks.
Some nuts.
Right.
Indeed, where would we be without them? Helen!
Oh,
it's coming on a treat, look at that.
Look at this, look at this.
I think a treat is what I mean.
It's like watching Mr. Pastry at work.
Lichen, lichen.
Now use some of those bits of dried lemon, Helen, because they're nice.
I'm more than happy to take any sort of instruction from the floor at this point. Michael's giving me a lot of earache. I don't know. Nuts, yes, nuts I'm hearing.
Kenneth has painted. There's 35 seconds left.
Nuts,
33 seconds left. Time is going.
Where's the candle?
apples for a bit of colour.
Don't forget the candle, folks, whatever you do.
Candle.
And a lit candle
A
at
bit
that.
more colour there. Pop in a little orange.
Yes, Helen has the candle in, but
Some more
Patrick is lagging.
inexpensive
15
nuts.
seconds. 15 seconds to go.
Hands on.
The leaning.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Patrick with the leaning candle of Brent. So who will win the Turnip Prize? Kenneth, can you bear it? Can you score these two arrangements, please?
I think it's comedy, I think.
Points for performance, no question about that.
Little bit back there.
I think it looks very good. I think it looks very
my
good.
good side.
Well, as this Christmas, I was 4.
Let's be so.
4, yes. Very well done. And you've got the colours
I've got the candle.
If you had been clever, a great effort.
So how many for a great effort?
I think 3.
3 points, ladies and gentlemen, yes.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kenneth Tanner.
Thank you.
And the overall scores after round 2 look like this. Gilly's team have 6 points. Michael's team, however, still lead with 10. If you thought that was difficult, you ain't seen nothing yet, because round 3 is the great food and drink wine challenge, where our experts, Gilly and Oz, courageously lay their reputations on the line in a genuinely blind tasting. Each has selected 2 white wines for the other to identify, and we reckon they'd be ideal for Christmas dinner. The audience in the studio and you at home will get the answers on the screen, but Gilly, of course, is on her own. Gilly, what I need, as usual, for 1 point each, are the grape variety, country, region, name or producer, vintage, if it's applicable, and the price to within 50p. Not much to ask, goodness knows. Wine A first, and here are the details for those of us who don't have to do the hard bit. Patrick, give us the benefit of your wisdom.
Yeah. It's a white.
It's going rather well so far.
Yeah. It's a grape, I'd say.
Yeah.
Round grape, probably, do you think?
Well, oval, really. Right, wine A.
Wine A is a cherubic little chap in a lovely sort of golden coat. Very pretty colour. And It's probably
Start
French.
with grape variety. French is right.
It's French,
French
and
is right. 1 point.
I would expect that it could possibly not be unrelated to the Chardonnay grape.
Quite closely related to the Chardonnay grape. The region, please, or the...
Quite a hefty little wretch, actually.
Are you referring to Patrick or the white wine?
I think I'd put it further. Would you say further south? Or
I'm quite a hefty little wretch myself, you know.
Where do you think it's sort of approximately? South?
Definitely south.
I think it's from the south. Okay, well, it probably comes from the Ock or somewhere like that.
That's where it comes from. Very well done. 3 points. A vintage, if you think that's appropriate.
Nice. It's really delicious, and I recommend it to everybody for Christmas dinner. And vintage-wise, it's not too new. It's not a 93, and it's not a 92, I wouldn't say. Or it is, maybe. Or 92 is a jolly nice year, I have to say.
Yeah, we'll
I
settle
like
for that.
92 a lot, actually.
92 we'll settle for.
so
And the
nice.
price to within 50p, please.
Price to within 50p. It must be in a pricey one, don't you think? Pricey one. Pricey one.
Pricey.
4.49.
3.90.
4.49 is within... 4.49 is within 50p. It's 3.99. Very well done, and it was made by a Frenchman called Hardy. Next, wine B, and so that was 5 points to Gilly. In fact, it's an extra 2 for getting them all right. Well done. Next, wine B, and coming up on the screen is the solution for those of us who are lazy. Patrick, have you? Yes, you have. What do you think about wine B, Patrick?
I think it's sweet.
You think it's on the sweet
You think
side?
it's sweet? I think it's one of the sweetest wines I've ever...
Tasted this evening.
It is. It's a dear little thing, isn't it?
It is a dear little thing. It's a sweet little thing. I want to take it home.
I think it probably comes from across the border from France.
Yeah,
And,
might well.
And it's German. And it's a very nice little glass of wine. And
And the grape, what do we think that is? You were there recently, of course.
Riesling.
Yeah, well done.
Has to be Riesling.
2 points, looking very good. And region,
It's a sweet little Riesling.
region or producer, or both, if you like.
That's quite tricky. Well, Oz loves the Mosel. That's a great friendly place of his.
And so does the maker of the wine.
And
yeah.
the maker of the wine has been there quite often, might live there even. And so it's it's a Mosel Riesling, and it's
And its vintage?
92.
A bit younger than that. I mean, a bit older than that, right?
91.
No,
90.
no, it is a. No, it is a 90.
This century.
It is a 90.
It's a this century one, isn't it? Yes.
It is this century. And the price?
And the price of that one, well, we went a bit wrong last time. Where should we go? It's a late pause.
Late pause. Yeah.
4.99.
4.99. Right on the button. 4 points for that. Very well done. So now, Julie, please take your challenge over to Oz with a glass, of course, for Helen, who may well be an invaluable ally in this endeavour, as was Patrick. Meanwhile, I'll just recap on those wines that Oz chose for Gilly. First was the Chardonnay from the south of France, Domaine Saint-Hilaire, which will set you back $3.99 at Oddbins. And second was the Moselle, or Mosel, Ockfener Bockstein, which is $4.99 from Waitrose. Now then, Oz, grape variety of wine A, if you'd be so kind.
It's very modern wine.
Yes.
As he's flanneling away. I would say that I think we're in the Chardonnay sort of world again.
Well done you. Well done you.
Keep whispering. No, what,
That is where we are.
Is it anything to do with Rolf Harris?
I tell you what, it isn't Australian.
That's what it isn't.
Because it hasn't got as much fruit as an Australian wine would have.
Right,
but
you're right.
it is
You're right.
New World, so and it hasn't got the New Zealandy kind of bite. So you're talking about South America or South Africa.
South Africa is where it's at. Yeah. So the region, Oz.
Region?
Or producer, or both, possibly?
Producer or both. There are two main sort of areas, so she's waffling away. It's quite high acidity, which implies, I mean, there's an area called Robertson.
That's the area you should... That's where you should stay,
I
Oz.
don't believe I am in the presence of genius.
No,
here.
I was actually going to say 5 other areas, including Essex and South Yorkshire,
You're
but
going
Robertson will do.
to stick your neck out for a grower.
The only grower I know in Robertson is a local Danny DeWitt.
Four
He's
points.
the only grower in Robertson.
4 points, very good. Now, a vintage, if you think there is one.
And I thought it was going to be something like a 93. And of course it is a 93. Why does everyone clap when Julia and I get it totally wrong and everyone claps? It's very kind. I think it's a 93 because of that astonishing youth. It's such a vibrantly youthful
Unmistakable,
wine.
isn't it, really? Yeah.
Yes.
5 points so far. It's looking very good. Price, Oz.
Between $4.49 and $4.99.
Well, it's $3.79 to $4.39, so you squeeze in
Not
with
through what I
50
didn't
pence
say.
at the far end. Yes. So that's 7 points to you, Oz, and wine B next, please.
Totally different.
Very different. Fruitier.
Green.
I mean, it looks like, well, let's face it, a urine sample from the Middlesex Hospital. I'd place it at Middlesex Hospital.
Julia and I haven't, by any chance, chosen each other the same grape varieties, have we?
Oddly enough, yes.
Because, I mean, this smells like a really beautiful young Riesling wine.
So it should. 1 point. And the country of origin.
There's only one place which makes Riesling with this great big, wonderful, rich, green-gagey, lime kind of flavour. It's got to be Australia.
That'll be the one.
Good.
So it was Royal Paris after all.
Yeah, but that was a bit earlier.
Now we are.
Your memory's going, dear.
Thank
But
goodness we got Royal
Now we
Paris
are in
somewhere.
didgeridoo territory. Yep, 2 points so far. And what bit of Australia?
It's, I would think, South Australia. South Australia. I think. It's a big state.
Do you want to refine that anymore?
This green gauginess says Barossa Valley to me.
That's exactly what it should say to you. Yes, very well done. And a vintage?
The fruit and the fact there's a little fizz still in the thing would say it's a 93, I'd say.
Spot on, and the price, Oz.
I'm going to let you go on this, actually, Oz.
Somewhere between $3.79 and $3.95.
No, you're out there. It's actually the man is fallible.
It's a $4.99 wine.
The man is human after all. No, it's £4.99 and a total of 6 points. Sorry, 4 points there to us, because you didn't get them all right, so I can't give them the extra 2. Let me just recap those 2 for you in case they've tickled your fancy. First, the South African Chardonnay, Danny DeWitt, which is £3.79 from larger Safeway stores. And second was the Australian Riesling, available at $4.99 from larger Tesco stores. Next week, Gilly and Oz go red, but now we look at the reckoning. Gilly's team have 17 points, but the gap remains the same because Michael's team have 21. And it's not over yet. Next, the big match. That is matching ingredients to the dishes to which they belong. On your trays are the ingredients teams for 2 dishes, 1 savoury and 1 sweet, but their ingredients are all jumbled up. You've got to sort them out, please. And starting with Michael's team, Helen, here are the clues to help you do just that. A Mexican hat, which I think you owe it to your public to wear. And Michael, a Nana Muscuri LP. So now remove the cloth, please, and arrange the ingredients to represent the 2 dishes suggested by the clues. You have 30 seconds to unscramble the riddle of the sands, starting now.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael's going for it like a man who knows what he's doing. Mexican savoury dish, we think.
Chipotle. Yes, that's right.
Yep. Time running out, folks.
This is one of those things.
Right, okay. Now, let's start with the savouries, if you please. Michael, on your plate you should have a block of bitter chocolate, which you have, 1 point. A cooked turkey, 2 points. 3 types of chili, have we 3 types?
Yes,
Chili, another
chipotle,
point.
jalapeno, and
the other one, very good, 3 points. And shredded tortilla. Yep. That's 4 points. Now, for the big one, for 2 more points, can you tell me what the dish is?
mole poblano.
2 points, very well done. And now let's try for the sweet dish, shall we? So you should have on there shredded wheat, and you should have the pistachio nuts.
Yeah.
You do. Sugar syrup, which you do, and cinnamon, which you also do. That's 4 points. So what's this one called, please, Michael?
It's not baklava.
Baklava.
It's the other one.
It's not
It's the other one. Go on, you're doing good. I don't want the baklava. I want the other one.
Not baklava. It is katafi. Katafi. Very well done. And Patrick, the clues for you are a video of Casablanca, everybody's favourite, and a recent photograph here of the British cabinet. So away with the cloth, and you two have 30 seconds in which to sort out that conundrum.
Right. Go. So we got what, Casablanca?
Casablanca. And the toy party.
Brian is sorting them out now.
This is vanilla. This is vanilla.
Looking interesting.
You want that? You sure? You sure? You want cinnamon? You want cinnamon?
That's a certain amount of doubt about here, I
bit
fear.
of squabbling, I'm afraid.
Let's go first for the sweet dish. And there you should have a vanilla pod.
Yeah.
Sweet dish.
Got that
Yes,
thing.
you've got that. Good. 1 point. Classic cherries. Great. 2 points. Ratafia biscuits. Yes. 3 points. And diced sponge cake. Wonderful. 4 points. So, Brian, what do you reckon it is?
It's the cabinet.
It is the cabinet, therefore it's cabinet pudding.
Cabinet pudding.
6 points. 6 points and a 2-point bonus for a superb performance there. The savoury dish should contain preserved lemons, and it does, raw chicken, and it does, green olive, and what is that called?
A tagine.
A tagine pot, yes, very impressive. 4 points so far, and therefore the dish is?
A tagine of poulet from Morocco.
So there you are, you see. So how's the score looking now? Julie's team have 33 points, and oddly enough, so do Michael. And so to our final round, where our two cooks get down to business with a Christmas starter you can actually make in 2 minutes or even less. And Brian, we'll start with you, please. What is it you're going to make?
Well, it's a dish to get rid of those old chicken livers that you got stuck in the fridge before Christmas, after Christmas, with tomato salad and potato salad.
You have 2 minutes starting now.
Good, so I got my pan on here, nice and hot. Keep watching YouTube, Patrick. You're going to do this afterwards. Nice and hot. Don't burn the butter. I'm going to get the chicken livers in first. They take a little bit longer to cook. I want a nice colour. When you put them in chilli, take your hand away so you don't burn yourself, because those darling hands of yours. Because in the food and drink programme, I've only got one pan, so I'm going to put the potato salad into here.
You're lucky to get that, frankly.
Oh, careful spitting her. With skin on there. I'm just going to warm up the potatoes and cook the chicken livers.
1 minute 30 left, Brian.
1 minute 30. Some wonderful plum tomatoes, a very sharp knife. Patrick, I was going to ask you to do this, but after rehearsal...
I'll do it.
No, I can't stand the sight of blood. No blood in this recipe whatsoever. Onto the plate. Keep them out of the fridge so that the flavours are nice and juicy coming out there. If you'd like to just turn over those chicken livers very carefully and keep them in the pan. I'll give a bit of salt and pepper on there, nice and early.
1 minute
just to drag
remains.
out the flavours.
1 minute, Brian.
In the meantime, if I can find the right pan, excuse me please. I'm going to take out the potatoes, make my potato salad. Keep going, girl, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's
A little bit of mayonnaise out of the fridge. All mixed up. Use the hands, it's a lot easier. And pile that on top.
40 seconds.
Don't forget to taste and see if they're okay. 40 seconds.
Yeah.
40
35 now.
Salt, pepper. Don't overdo the chicken livers, whatever you do. And then very carefully pile these on top here.
20 seconds remain.
And if you're not careful, you might get shot. Stand back, please, huh? I'll pile on to
15 seconds.
How many?
15.
Right, a little bit of French dressing is all you
10,
need.
9,
So over the top here.
7,
And before we do the countdown, a bit of chop chive, chop it up and throw it on. And when they say one, you have finished.
Audience, give me a point out of 5, please, for Brian's sterling effort. How many do you think? Let me hear it. 5, that looks like a 5 to me. 5 points for Brian Turner. Well done. So, Michael, the honour of the home team, food and drink expects and all that. What are you going to make?
I'm going to do a starter for Christmas lunch. It's a melon dish with a fragrant and delicate mousse of smoked salmon and cream cheese.
2 minutes for your unaccustomed fragrance and delicacy, starting now.
You start with a melon, and the first thing you do is you cut around it with a sharp knife by prodding it through to the middle. Now, this is really quite boring. this bit. It's like watching paint dry, and it's probably the longest bit in the whole of the exercise. You have to keep going, have courage. There comes a point when you think nothing's going to happen and you're never going to get round the other side. So if you keep going quietly and you do it in a diagonal shape, slowly, it said on the packet, round the corner would come the rest of the melon. Now then you pull it apart and carefully, and you have a rather prettily decorated and cut melon. You pull the seeds out of that and you tuck those out of the way into a bowl.
1 minute 20, Michael.
Oh gosh, okay. Right, and then you put that into the pretty bowl you've got for it. Then you add some smoked salmon, about 2 to 3 ounces of smoked salmon into a food processor, about the same cream cheese.
1 minute.
And then you add a few more bits and pieces, some dill, little pepper, and some olive oil. And then little lemon, squeezed out of a whole lemon. And then you give it a zuzz. The zuzzing is quite important. It can't really be done by hand. There's the fragrant mousse I was referring to. And then what you do is you take out some of that with a spoon that will make a shape a bit like an ice cream cone.
30 seconds.
And you just tap it on the top. Now, if we can eat it in the 2 minutes as well, would that be okay?
That's it, is it? Right, okay.
Go for it, go on. You're 24 seconds left to eat it. That's it, go on. And again, go on. The last one now. Come on down. Go for it. Go on, hang on. 3, 2, 1.
Insouciantly within the time limit. Audience, how many points do you think for Michael? 5 points for Michael Barry. Well done. And that brings us to the end of this Christmas cracker. It only remains to see who gets to sit on top of the tree. The final score. Julie's team have 38 points, and so have Michael's team. So warm thanks to Julie Goulden, Brian Turner and Patrick Barlow, to Michael Barry, Oz Clark and Helen Atkinson Wood. Be sure and join us next week for a second helping when we've got some great recipes for leftover Christmas pud and the perfect red wines to go with it. Till then, from the entire team, goodbye.
And there are over 500 of Michael Barry's no-nonsense recipes, together with the wine-buying tips from Julie Goulden in this BBC book to accompany the series.
Locked in a titanic struggle for the future of the planet, a group of environmental commandos discuss tactics.
Don't call me baby, Walter. I'm not going to give you a lift if you call me baby. I think somebody needs a cuddle.
United against the common foe.
2 by 2, the animals are summoned to the arms.
Risking all for their cause.
You let your friend down in combat, and you're dishonored. I can live with that.
Ben Elton Stark, tomorrow at 9:25 on BBC Two.
Back to grace your screen again on BBC Two, the festive bits of Harry Enfield.
Radically was going to be. The new committee which he's set up is going to have to review the 1996-97 options. Our committee is going to be monitoring what his committee is doing every step of the way, and we have got to achieve that objective.
Senator Sponsor, thanks, Campbell. Thank you both very much. Every now and then, a committee unravels a saga of the kind of astonishing complexity that leaves the onlooker gasping in disbelief. Such is the case of Britain's biggest health authority, the Greater Glasgow Health Board, its chairman and its general manager. An everyday tale, opposition MPs would say, of what happens when private sector practices are introduced into the public sector. On Wednesday, the Scottish Affairs Committee worked its way through the key players. Bill Fife became chairman in April under instructions to shake up the health authority. One of his first acts was to try to pay off the board's general manager, Lawrence Peterkin. A cash settlement was agreed, but the deal was vetoed by the Scottish Office Minister, Lord Fraser, as a waste of public money. So Mr. Peterkin was offered another job, which he rejected as degrading. On November the 2nd, he was sacked without warning by Mr. Fife following an ad hoc board meeting. A fortnight later, though, he was offered a new job with an £86,000 salary by the NHS management executive in Scotland. Then Mr. Fife lost his job after the board passed a motion of no confidence in him. Trying to make sense of this complex tale, the committee began with Bill Fife's account of the meeting where it was decided to sack the general manager.
There was no special meeting called to dismiss Mr. Peterkin. It was a meeting of members of the board. It was an ordinary meeting? It was. No, it was a meeting of members of the board. It wasn't even a, a properly constituted board meeting. It was an act.
It wasn't a properly constituted board?
Well, sorry, that would have been dates put out for beforehand, and this would be on the agenda.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it wasn't on the agenda?
It was not. It was not on the agenda.
So your board members turned up not knowing what they were going to discuss?
No, they turned up. They were there in committee, and it was a meeting of members of the board in which we have been advised was reasonable and proper.
Were they all there?
No, they were not all there. There was two not present.
Can I just confirm that you were dismissed your general manager at a meeting with less than the full board there, at a meeting which was an add-on to a committee meeting, at which there had been no formal notification that this was going to happen?
That is right.
One question on that. How much discussion had taken place previously at previous board meetings on this precise issue?
For the very sensitive nature of this, very little in full board meetings, but a lot in private.
You said you sought advice before you operated the dismissal?
Yes.
From whom?
From the Central Legal Office. These who were representing the board, that is who represents the Greater Glasgow Health Board and every other health board in the country.
So
and I read out to you again. My response was cleared with the Scottish Health Service Central Legal Office that reasonable procedures were followed.
Do you feel with hindsight that you were badly advised? I can ask you that, in your own words, you said there is something morally corrupt in the Scottish Office which in any way, shape or form could attempt to personally destroy an individual on the basis of protecting the system of state. There is something that smells very badly. You said that in The Scotsman. Do you still believe that? And can you substantiate it?
I do feel very sadly let down because everything that I set out in looking at the affairs of Greater Glasgow I did to the best of my ability and on the best of advice that I thought it was right to get.
Mr. Fife insisted that because Mr. Peterkin had refused the alternative job, he had to be sacked, according to advice he'd had from the Scottish office.
I feel that I was, yes, shafted on that day, because in fact by writing out to my non-executive members, not to the Vice Chairman, not calling me in. Why did I get no phone call from the ministers or Secretary of State or the Chief Executive to go and see them the night after the action, to hold it back, to see if the right decision had been taken, to put a hold on it? Because, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, they knew what had happened. They knew it was happening. They couldn't call me in. Because in actual fact, I carried out to the letter everything that I saw on the basis of the legal advice that was there in front of me.
Lawrence Peterkin, however, told the committee his contract clearly stated he couldn't be dismissed without a written warning and a meeting of the full board. All he'd had was a phone call from the personnel director after the event.
That was the first notice I had of the alleged termination of my contract.
What do you think of that?
I thought it was appalling, improper and illegal.
In your own opinion, was it the Scottish office or the chairman of the Greater Glasgow Health Board who wanted you dismissed? And can you say why?
As far as dismissal is concerned, the only person who took action, as far as I can see, is Mr. Fife.
So you think that the Scottish office had nothing to do with it?
I don't see how the Scottish office could possibly have given their support to the dismissal as it occurred without notice and so on, because the way that it occurred was in clear contradiction to the wording of my contract.
And later the Scottish Office Minister, Lord Fraser, appeared to back Mr. Peterkin. It emerged that fear of legal action prompted the offer of another job for him.
Why was a new job found for Mr. Peterkin? And why was it not advertised, given government policy on this particular high post for highly paid jobs?
It's usually the structure of the normal situation of advertising these particular meetings. And could you tell me, Lord Fraser, why this all happened?
Such was the irregularity of that meeting and what appeared to me the complete absence of any grounds for the summary dismissal of Mr. Peterkin. Without any greater knowledge than that, it seemed clear enough to me that Mr. Peterkin had potentially a very substantial claim against Greater Glasgow Health Board. While that claim would not have been personally embarrassing either to me or to the Secretary of State, a quick calculation of it, and I don't know what advice Mr. Peterkin got from his own lawyers, it seemed to me it potentially amounted to hundreds of thousands of pounds. And that would have meant hundreds of thousands of pounds of National Health Service money would not have been used for any proper purpose.
Well, after that, the former chairman, Bill Fife, has asked if he can have a right of reply to the committee. Meanwhile, Parliament's financial watchdog, the Controller and Auditor General, is also to investigate the affair. MPs of all parties are notoriously conservative about their own working practices. At the moment, there's much harumping over a plan to serve coffee to the public on the committee corridor. So have sympathy with the Information Committee, condemned to the apparently Herculean task of interesting MPs in state-of-the-art information systems. To the outsider, the arguments for modernisation seem overwhelming. At the moment, MPs can't even watch the Commons chamber on their office televisions. All they have is a box called the Annunciator, which tells them what's being debated and who's debating it. Well, with me now is the Information Committee Chairman, Gary Waller. Gary Waller, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it, that we and the other broadcasting organisations have this continuous feed. Everything, every breath, every syllable that's uttered in the Commons we can see, and MPs can't.
Well, yes, indeed, I think it is. The Broadcasting Committee considered this matter some time ago and decided that until all MPs had it, none should. I think one of the fears is that if MPs were able to watch what was happening in the chamber in their offices, they wouldn't bother to go along to the chamber.
It's some indictment, and let's face it, the chamber is actually not often very full anyway.
Well, that's true. Of course, I think it's perhaps getting a little bit fuller because many MPs are finding that their constituents say they do watch a lot of television in the afternoons and they'd like to see their MPs there.
No, it's not, of course, just about television in MPs' offices. You're on a much more ambitious project than that, updating the whole range of information that MPs can get. What exactly are you looking at?
Well, if we were able to wire up the whole Palace of Westminster, as the House of Commons may decide to do next year, then we would have access to a lot of rather sophisticated databases that are held by the library, and we would also be able to use electronic mail to communicate with each other. We have the whole of Hansard now on compact disc, and it's possible in just a few moments to find out references to a particular phrase in Parliament. For example, I wanted to find out the other day how many times the term level playing field has been used in the last session, and within a few instants, I found it was well over 100.
How useful, Gary. Well, thank you very much. And that's just about it for this week. On Monday, the Social Security Committee publishes its report on the Child Support Agency. But before absent parents get too optimistic about radical change in the way their maintenance is assessed, remember, the committee warmly supports the idea behind the agency. We'll be back with all that next week. Until then, goodbye.
This doctor does not work in a hospital or surgery.
Tell me again, what's the problem?
His patients do not come to him.
Some domestic violence at South Norwood.
The people he treats are all on the edge of the law. Dr. Peter Green is a police surgeon. 40 Minutes follows him on his rounds, Tuesday at 9:50 on BBC Two.
A battle fought in the 1930s by the American labour movement in 15 minutes. After the news and sport, now on BBC Two.
The Home Secretary says patrol your streets to keep them safe. Mr. Howard calls for a new approach to neighbourhood watch in partnership with the police. 360 miles out in space, the shuttle has recaptured the damaged Hubble telescope. And the All Blacks end their tour in triumph. Good evening. The Home Secretary, Michael Howard, has proposed that Neighbourhood Watch volunteers should be encouraged to carry out their own crime prevention patrols. He said schemes would have to be worked out with the local police, but a fresh impetus was needed. The Shadow Home Secretary, Tony Blair, said the public should not be asked to do the job of the police.
5 million homes are protected by Neighbourhood Watch schemes, which try to be the eyes and ears of the community. Members keep in touch with each other and report anything suspicious to the police. The Home Secretary says they could play a more active role out on the streets.
I firmly believe that if Neighbourhood Watch schemes want to carry out patrols and are prepared to do so in an organised way in consultation with the police, they should be given strong encouragement to take that action.
There must be no vigilantism, said Mr Howard. After listening to the Home Secretary, one of Britain's most senior policemen spoke diplomatically of advantages and disadvantages of the idea.
A police patrol is one of the most difficult things that we ask any police officer to do. So clearly, patrol in that sense wouldn't be a particular advantage, I suspect. And that's why in the development of this scheme, we have to ensure that people are appropriately advised if they're going to do this, so that they don't run unnecessary risks.
The Home Secretary quoted a survey showing a majority of those questioned in favour of patrolling. But Neighbourhood Watch members seemed less enthusiastic.
I must admit I'm not very happy about the concept of ordinary people going out and maybe under some circumstances putting their life and limbs at risk.
In one voice he said he didn't want vigilantism. Now he's advocating Neighbourhood Watch going out on patrols, which I feel will result in vigilantism.
Michael Howard is overriding traditional Home Office reluctance to encourage crime prevention patrolling. But he says such activity must be governed by a code of practice drawn up with the police. Neil Bennett, BBC News, at the Neighbourhood Watch Conference in London.
In Geneva, police have used tear gas to break up protests by thousands of farmers from Europe, Asia and North America. They were demonstrating against the proposed agreement for the Uruguay round of the GATT World Trade Talks, which could be finalised next week.
Violent scenes outside the GATT headquarters. Hundreds of French and Swiss farmers clashing with police, adamant that a world trade agreement will force them into bankruptcy. The farmers say a deal being worked out now would be disastrous, protesting that even in its modified form, it would eventually cut agricultural subsidies. Today's demonstration occurred as the trade talks enter their final stage. Just 11 days to go to the deadline for completing an accord which could create hundreds of thousands of new jobs. The main American and European negotiators announced last Thursday they're close to resolving many of the differences which have blocked a deal for more than 3 years. The European Trade Commissioner, Sir Leon Britton, will talk to the French Prime Minister in Paris tomorrow, keen to persuade France that the impact on farmers has been eased and asking it to back an agreement. At GATT in Geneva, officials hope the French can be convinced one more obstacle to success removed. Jonathan Charles, BBC News.
The Angolan government and UNITA rebels have reached a ceasefire in the country's 18-year civil war. The deal was drawn up with the help of the United Nations during 3 weeks of secret talks in the Zambian capital, Lusaka. Fighting intensified last October after UNITA, led by Jonas Savimbi, lost the UN-supervised general election to the MPLA government. Atrocities committed by both sides increased, and 1,000 people a day were said to be dying in conditions worsened by a lack of food and medicine. Here, Labour is being urged to put the defence of the welfare state at the top of its agenda. A conference of trade union leaders and Labour left-wingers has called for a continuing commitment to full employment and the preservation of universal benefits.
The conference brought together varying sections of the Labour left, united by their worries over government policies towards the welfare state and a fear that the Labour leadership might be conceding ground on the issue. The conference heard Labour should reject the premise that the welfare state had become too big a burden on the taxpayer.
We're being told ad nauseam that the welfare state is out of control. It's too expensive. You can't expect people to support it any longer through their tax payments. Now, I think that on this issue, after 20 years of retreat, it is time for the left to turn and stand and fight.
Reducing unemployment was seen as the key to cutting costs, not revision of welfare policies.
There are lies being peddled here
about the rising cost of the welfare state. And I must say they have had too much attention, not only in the newspapers, but in the labour movement as well.
Not surprisingly, the main target here has been the government. But if the Labour leadership changes its social policies, a potentially powerful combination of trade union leaders and left-wing MPs is ready to make its discontent known. Steve Richards, BBC News, Central London.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour have picked up the Hubble Space Telescope as it orbits the Earth. They'll now try to repair it in what will be one of the most complex operations ever attempted in space.
At a height of 320 miles above Earth, the shuttle edged nearer to the Hubble Space Telescope. Then, as the remote control arm reached out to grab it, Mission Control waited anxiously.
Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
The arm then slowly pulled the telescope down towards the payload bay for docking. The first view of the solar arrays shows that NASA's plan to replace them has come none too soon. The left-hand support strut is bent and the solar array twisted. Scientists have known for more than 3 years that there was a problem with the arrays.
As the telescope goes in and out of the shadow of the Earth, there are changes in the temperature of the solar arrays, and that is causing mechanical stresses within the arrays, and that, I think, is what will have caused the bends, yes.
At a news conference in Houston, NASA officials said they weren't too worried about the bent strut. They were just delighted the rendezvous and docking had gone so well.
It's an exciting day today, and we're all happy that we have arrived at this point, and looking forward to the EVA tomorrow.
During that EVA, or spacewalk, astronauts plan to replace some gyroscopes which point the telescope. The solar arrays will be replaced on Monday. With at least 5 spacewalks planned on this mission, it's the most complex ever attempted. Its success is vital to NASA's credibility. James Wilkinson, BBC News.
Now, with news of today's football and the resignation of another top manager, here's Rob Bonnet.
Yes, Howard Kendall has resigned as the manager of Everton 3 years after rejoining the club from Manchester City. No reason has been given for his departure, but the Everton chairman, Dr. David Marsh, said the manager had made the decision. Mr. Kendall's resignation was announced after Everton's 1-0 home win over Southampton this afternoon, a result that leaves them 11th in the table. His second spell in charge had been notably less successful than his first, during which Everton twice won the league title. Meanwhile, Manchester United's lead at the top of the FA Carling Premiership has been reduced for the first time in almost 3 months after their thrilling 2-2 draw with Norwich City today. Ryan Giggs gave United the lead against the run of play. By half-time it was 2-1, but a Raul Fox penalty just after the interval gave Norwich their point. Elsewhere, a late Brian Deane goal gave Leeds their win after Manchester City had pulled back from being 2-0 down, and Peter Beardsley scored both Newcastle goals, the second in the last minute, to beat Tottenham. Newcastle's win takes them to 3rd place behind Leeds, who now trail Manchester United by 12 points, still a daunting margin. Arsenal dropped to 4th after a 1-0 defeat at Coventry. Villa drew 2-2 at Queen's Park Rangers. Blackburn play tomorrow. Sutton United of the Diadora League sprang today's major surprise in the second round of the FA Cup, beating 3rd Division Torquay 1-0. Elsewhere, 3 other non-league teams, Nuneaton, Bromsgrove and Kidderminster, earned themselves a place in tonight's 3rd round draw.
Nuneaton Borough of the Beezer Homes League, who'd beaten Swansea after a replay in the first round, showed little sign of making further progress when 2nd Division Bournemouth deservedly went ahead 6 minutes after half-time through Alex Watson. But with just 11 minutes left, tyre fitter Peter Green earned a replay for Nuneaton, which will take place at Manor Park a week on Tuesday. Victory would give them a place in the 3rd round for only the 2nd time. Bromsgrove Rovers have reached round 3 for the first time, after 2 goals in the first 7 minutes at fellow GM Conference side Yeovil. Paul Webb scored the first, and then with the home defence still recovering, Colin Radburn made it 2-0. Bromsgrove joined Kidderminster and the day's giant killers Sutton United as the 3 non-league teams definitely through. Duncan Jones, BBC News.
Rangers have moved ahead at the top of Scotland's Premier Division. Gordon Durie, their new signing from Tottenham, scored twice as they beat rivals Motherwell. And at Tynecastle, Hearts took an early lead against Aberdeen with a scrappy goal from John Colquhoun, but the visitors replied late in the second half for a 1-1 draw. So Rangers' lead at the top is now 2 points from Celtic, who beat St Johnstone, and go above Motherwell on goal difference. Aberdeen are 4th and Hibernian 5th after winning at Rafe. The All Blacks have completed their rugby tour of Britain with a 25-12 win over the Barbarians in Cardiff. The result leaves the New Zealanders with the impressive record of 12 wins in 13 games.
For a fixture with such a tradition for entertainment, this was a match short of vintage quality, but it did have a genuine competitive edge, as the All Blacks strove to erase memories of defeat by England. If Dowd's opening try was something of a gift, the second, just 3 minutes later, fully demonstrated their commitment and Tuigamala's extraordinary strength and pace.
Tuigamala over the 22. Tuigamala all the way. A magnificent score.
17 points up after only 17 minutes, it threatened to become a rout, but Ireland's Eric Elwood kicked the Barbarians back into it with 4 penalties, testimony on their own to All Black determination to defend their lead by every means. In the second half, opportunities for the Barbarians were further limited, the nearest they came to a try coming when Elwood's kick presented Walker with a fleeting chance, promptly smothered by a swarm of black jerseys. In the end, All Black superiority deservedly asserted itself, and in a manner befitting the occasion, as freedom of movement and expression was allowed full reign. Ian Jones, the man given the honour of finishing it off. A tour illuminated by intermittent brilliance, but muddied by controversies over foul play, had at least ended on a memorable and pleasing note. Kevin Geary, BBC News.
Nick Gillingham has won Britain's second gold medal at the World Short Course Swimming Championships in Palma, Mallorca. Gillingham set a new European record in edging out the American Eric Wunderlich. It was 0.02 of a second better than the previous record he set over a year ago in Birmingham, and makes him the first British men's world title holder since David Wilkie in 1975. The stewards at Chepstow Racecourse have ordered a dope test on the Cheltenham Gold Cup winner Jodami after he finished a poor third in the rehearsal chase. Jodami's trainer said that the odds-on favourite appeared to be distressed after trading in well behind the former Grand National winner, Party Politics. Peter O'Sullivan describes the finish.
And it's Party Politics from Riverside Boy and Jodami as they race up towards the line in the rehearsal chase. And Party Politics is clear of Riverside Boy and Jodami. And as they come to the line, Party Politics wins the rehearsal chase. Second is Riverside Boy. And third, and one has to say a disappointing third, is Jodami, the Gold Cup winner, with back in...
Jodami will undergo tests at Chepstow tomorrow. The results should be known early next week. Chris.
And that's all for the moment. The main news on BBC One tonight is at 5 to 10.
Good evening. Many of us saw a good deal of sunshine today, and even in the south, after this cold front cleared away southwards. But it does mean that we have got clear spells over England and Wales at the moment, so it's going to be a much cooler night than last night in these areas. Further north, some cloud over Scotland and Northern Ireland, presently giving us some showers in these areas, and these will continue through tonight, although eastern parts of Scotland are likely to remain dry. Staying dry too over much of England and Wales, but with those relatively clear skies, much colder than last night, temperatures around 1 to 4 degrees, perhaps giving a touch of ground frost in eastern parts of England. Further north, with the cloud and the showers, temperatures nearer 3 to 5 degrees, with a blustery westerly wind. Tomorrow we'll still see it quite a breeze across the country coming in from the west, and we'll also have a front zipping across the northern part of the country. That will give us some rain into parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Over on the eastern side of Scotland, though, it should be fairly dry and bright, and we'll see quite a lot of brightness too over much of England and Wales, but probably not as much sunshine here as we saw today. Later in the day, though, we may see 1 or 2 showers coming into northwest England and also parts of Wales. Temperature-wise, though, it's going to be very similar to today, around 7 to 9 degrees. That's it for now. Good evening.
It was hotting up down under.
I must have perspired about 6 pints last night. When it gets to 6 pints, Mother, it's called sweaty.
The Stark conspiracy had poisoned the world.
TTO is about to destroy us all. TTO. Total toxic overload.
Only a crack unit of hippies could stop them.
We are star travelers, and we come in peace. Except him.
From Ben Elton's bestseller, BBC Two presents Stark, starting Wednesday at 9:25.
Crazy times call for crazy organizations. I purposefully use a hot word. Crazy. Use it twice.
Tom Peters, business management guru, tells an audience how it is.
In the 1990s, if you're working in a company that is not energetic, enthusiastic, creative, clever, curious, and just plain fun, you got troubles.
So throw out your files, shred your paper, and find out why you need Crazy Ways for Crazy Days with Tom Peters, Monday, 7:20 on BBC Two.
Continuing the performance season at 8:15 tonight, Michael Gambon is fading 50s variety act Archie Rice. Billy Whitelaw also stars in John Osborne's The Entertainer. On BBC Two now, vivid recollections of a fierce and often bloody battle fought by the American labor movement during the Great Depression.